A father stands in the kitchen rinsing dishes after work. The front door opens. His 10-year-old daughter walks in. Backpack slides off her shoulder, shoes kicked off. No smile, no "Hi, Dad," just silence. He glances over. "Hey, sweetheart, how was school?" She shrugs. "Fine." Something doesn't feel right. Parents know that feeling. It's hard to explain. Nothing looks wrong, but somehow everything feels different. He dries his hands. "Did anything happen today?" She stares at the floor for a second, then quietly says one word. "Nothing." He nods. "Okay." A few minutes later, she's in her room with the door closed. He tells himself she's probably just tired. Maybe tomorrow she'll feel better. But what if that one word, nothing, doesn't actually mean nothing? What if it's one of the most misunderstood words children say? And what if, without realizing it, parents respond in ways that make that word more likely to appear again and again and again? Because behind countless nothings are stories that never get told. And tonight, we're stepping inside a child's mind to understand why. If you've ever asked your child, "How was your day? Is everything okay? Did something happen?" You've probably heard it. Nothing. At first, it sounds like the conversation is over, but psychologists who study children's emotional development suggest something very different. Often, children aren't refusing to communicate. They're struggling to translate feelings into words. That's an important difference, because when adults hear nothing, they often think they're hiding something. But many children are thinking, "I don't even know how to explain what's happening inside me." Here's something fascinating. Researchers have found that children's ability to identify and describe emotions develops gradually over time. Younger children, and even many teenagers, can experience emotions that are far more complex than the words they have available to describe them. Imagine trying to describe the taste of a fruit you've never seen before. You know what you're experiencing, you just don't have the language for it. That's what emotions can feel like for a child. Now, imagine someone asks you to explain those feelings immediately while you're still trying to understand them yourself. Suddenly, nothing becomes the easiest answer in the world. And here's what makes this so easy to miss. The children who answer nothing aren't always the ones with the easiest lives. Sometimes they're carrying the heaviest thoughts. Not because they're trying to shut their parents out, but because they're quietly asking themselves questions they don't know how to answer. Let's slow everything down. Imagine you're 9 years old. Today wasn't a good day. During reading class, you stumbled over a word. A few classmates laughed. At recess, your best friend chose someone else for their team. On the bus ride home, nobody sat beside you. Nothing terrible happened, but 100 tiny moments stacked on top of each other. Now you're finally home. Dad notices you're unusually quiet. He smiles. "What's wrong?" And suddenly your brain fills with questions. Where do I even begin? If I tell him about the reading mistake, will he think I wasn't paying attention? If I tell him about recess, will he say I'm making a big deal out of nothing? If I cry, will he think I'm a baby? What if he calls the teacher tomorrow? That would make everything worse. Maybe I should just forget about it. Maybe tomorrow will be different. Maybe I'm overreacting. All those thoughts race through your mind in just a few seconds. By the time your mouth finally opens, only one word comes out: nothing. That word isn't always a lie. Sometimes it's emotional traffic. Too many thoughts trying to squeeze through one tiny opening. Here's where many loving parents accidentally misunderstand what's happening. They assume silence means secrecy, but very often silence means overload. Think about the last time you had one of the worst days of your life. Did you immediately know how to explain it? Or did someone ask, "What's wrong?" and your mind suddenly went blank? Adults experience this too. The difference is that we've had decades to practice putting emotions into words. Children are still learning. Experts sometimes call this emotional awareness, the ability to recognize, understand, and describe what's happening inside us. That skill develops over years, not overnight. Picture a box filled with tangled Christmas lights. Now imagine someone asks you to explain exactly how every knot formed. You couldn't do it, not because you're hiding the answer, because the knots are still tangled. That's often what emotions feel like for children: confusing, messy, overlapping. One feeling blends into another until they can't tell whether they're angry, embarrassed, disappointed, lonely, or all four at once. So when parents hear nothing, they often assume there's nothing to discuss. But inside the child's mind, there may be an entire conversation waiting for words. And here's the heartbreaking part. Every time a child feels misunderstood, they quietly collect information. Not about school, not about friends, about something much more important. Is this a safe place to tell someone what's really going on? The answer to that question doesn't usually come from one big conversation. It comes from hundreds of small moments, and those small moments can shape whether a child opens up tomorrow or closes the door just a little bit more. In the next part, we'll look at two ordinary moments that change children's lives in ways their parents never realized, and the simple mistake many loving parents make after hearing the word nothing. Let's look at what nothing can hide. Meet Ethan. He's 10 years old. Saturday morning, he has the biggest soccer game of the season. His dad cheers from the sidelines. Late in the second half, Ethan has the perfect chance to score. He misses. The final whistle blows. His team loses by 1 goal. On the drive home, the car is quiet. His dad glances over. "Tough game. You okay, buddy?" Ethan looks out the window. "Yeah." "You sure?" "Nothing." But inside, Ethan isn't thinking about the missed goal. He's thinking about his dad. He gave up his Saturday to watch me fail. He's probably disappointed. The heartbreaking part is, his father isn't disappointed at all. He's proud of Ethan for trying, but Ethan doesn't know that. Now, meet Lily. She's 11. Every day at lunch, she sits with the same group of girls. Today, no one saved her a seat. No one said anything mean. No one told her to leave. They simply forgot. To an adult, it might seem small. To an 11-year-old, it feels enormous. That evening, her mom asked, "How was school?" "Fine." "Did anything happen?" "Nothing." What Lily doesn't say is the question she's been asking herself all afternoon. Maybe they don't actually like me. One ordinary moment, one silent ride home, one word, nothing. Two children, two completely different stories, two identical answers, nothing. That's why parents should never assume the word tells the whole story. Sometimes it's simply the only word a child can manage at that moment. Here's something child development experts often emphasize. Children don't decide in one dramatic moment if it's safe to open up. They decide little by little, conversation by conversation, reaction by reaction. Imagine every interaction as a small deposit into an emotional bank account. Your child tells you something embarrassing. How do you respond? Deposit. They admit they made a mistake. Do they receive understanding or immediate criticism? Deposit. They tell you they're worried about something that seems small. Do they feel heard? Another deposit. Over time, those moments answer one silent question. When something hurts, can I come to you? One mother shared a story that perfectly illustrates this. Every afternoon, she'd ask her 12-year-old son the same question. How was school? Every afternoon, the answer was exactly the same. Fine. She tried asking more questions. Still nothing. Eventually, she stopped asking the moment he walked through the door. Instead, she'd make a snack, sit at the kitchen table, and simply be there. No pressure, no interrogation, just presence. Days passed. Then, one afternoon, while spreading peanut butter on a slice of toast, her son quietly said, "Can I tell you something that happened today?" She hadn't asked, she hadn't pushed, she had simply created a space where silence wasn't uncomfortable, and eventually her son filled that silence with trust. Sometimes the greatest gift we give children isn't another question, it's enough time to answer the first one. Parents often search for the perfect words, the perfect question, the perfect parenting technique. But the truth is much simpler. Children rarely remember every sentence we say. They remember how they felt when they were with us. Did they feel rushed, judged, interrupted, embarrassed? Or did they feel accepted, even before they found the right words? That feeling becomes the foundation of trust. And trust doesn't grow because parents have all the answers. It grows because children believe they're safe enough to ask the questions. Let's return to the father in the kitchen. His daughter walks through the front door. Backpack falls to the floor. "How was school?" "Fine." "Did something happen?" She looks down. Nothing. This time, he doesn't rush to fill the silence. He doesn't start guessing. He doesn't lecture. He doesn't say, "You can tell me." Instead, he pulls out the chair beside her. He sits down. No phone in his hand, no television in the background, no pressure. Just quiet company. 1 minute passes, then another. Outside, the evening grows darker. Inside, something begins to soften. She takes a deep breath, looks up, and whispers, "Actually, there is something." That conversation won't solve every problem. It won't erase what happened at school, but it will accomplish something even more important. She'll learn that home is the place where she doesn't have to pretend she's okay. And perhaps that's what every child is really searching for. Not perfect parents, not perfect advice. Just one person who can sit beside them long enough for nothing to become, "Can I tell you something?" So the next time your child answers with that one small word, don't hear rejection, don't hear disrespect, don't hear the end of the conversation. Hear an invitation to slow down, to listen without rushing, to make room for feelings that don't yet have names. Because the most meaningful conversations between parents and children rarely begin with brilliant advice. They begin with something much quieter, a safe place, a patient heart, and someone willing to stay until nothing becomes the truth that was waiting to be heard. If this message resonated with you, share it with another parent. Sometimes one conversation can change a childhood, and one small change today can shape the relationship you and your child have for years to come.